It's great to see everyone here this morning, and special thanks to Don Latham for inviting me here. I titled this talk "Significant Living." I don't know if you guys saw that. I don't know if you like that title. I generally don't title things, so if you don't like it, then just chuck it out. Forgive me. But really, that kind of is what I wanted to talk about this morning, because rather than just come here and share some stories alone for their own sake, I really feel that the purpose of this is to highlight what really is life about, what really is a meaningful life and a significant life all about. And I guess my story and the point where I've come up to, I'm 27 now, the point where I've come up to in my life has been one of being in a place of sensing no significance, no worth, no value in life, to one of seeing life as something that has great significance, and it's very, very important indeed. I was a little bit about my background. If I could just give you a whistle-stop tour, I hope that's all right. I was, sometimes people, they find out you're a Christian and they say, oh, well, if you were brought up in another country, then you would be another religion. If you were brought up in Saudi Arabia, you'd be a Muslim, or if you were brought up in Tibet, you'd be a Buddhist, or if you were brought up in communist Russia, you'd be an atheist. So, why do you think that, why do you say being a Christian is anything special? Surely you're just brought up to think that way. I think maybe sometimes people can be brought up to think that way, but I have to say my life, my upbringing really wasn't so much like that. I had kind of Christian influences from one side of my family. I mean, my mum was a, kind of reasonably committed Christian. My dad, however, was far more interested in the New Age, in kind of what people would broadly call, spiritual things. I'm actually, if you can't tell, I'm actually half Greek, so there's kind of a mixed cultural background there as well. Christianity in Greece is a little bit of a mess. 99% of Greeks will say they're Christians, and 99% of them will never go to church and have nothing to do with the church, because they really see it as an institution. And I kind of came up in a very anti-institutional mindset. I have to constantly remind myself I'm not an anarchist. I'm not against institutions, governments, or anything else, because everything that I was kind of, saturated with was about, subversion, protest, and all of that. I still joke with my father today because I happened to vote Conservative in the last election, and that virtually anathematized me from the rest of the family. So, again, apologies to you if you didn't vote Conservative. I'm not really that interested in the politics of it anyway. But really, that was kind of the seedbed that I came from. And in that environment, I discovered at an early age that the spiritual realm was a very real thing. I have vivid memories of being maybe 4, 5, 6 years old and having kind of, I suppose, unusual spiritual encounters, sometimes kind of negative spiritual encounters, I have to say. I have memories of walking down the road and feeling compelled by a force to walk in front of the path of cars, being about 4 or 5 years old. And I can remember not understanding why, but like feeling something was pulling me into the paths of cars. And I had my parents say, what are you doing? Why do you keep trying to walk into the road? They didn't understand. And I even remember at that time, I didn't quite understand, but I knew that something was kind of going on. So from a young age, kind of that and other instances made me aware that there was more to life than what I could see, and what I could touch, and what I could put in a test tube and experiment on. And as because of that, I always thought there must be a God. I just thought it's ridiculous that somebody might think. This was just me. So again, I apologize to you if this is where you're at. But for me, I always just could never understand how someone could exist in the world and think that it just happened. It just appeared out of nowhere. Although I wasn't prepared to say who God was, or what he was like, or if it was a he, or if it was somebody you could even talk to, I just thought there must be something, because I recognize that this world is a spiritual world. And those thoughts kind of really were sown in. I don't know exactly where they came from, but they were there. And by the time I got into my early teens, I had a recurring thought which just never got out of my mind. Anytime I got on my own, anytime I got quiet, the same thought just went round and round. And it was a simple line, really. It said, 70 years on this planet if you're lucky, and then you're dead. And what do you take with you? Anything you've ever done, any money you've ever earned, any friend you've ever made, you take none of it with you. And it's a thought that bothered me. I have to say, I was haunted by that thought. And it got worse. As I got older, it just got worse. And so I started trying to fill my life with whatever I could in order to drown out that voice which just kept provoking me whenever I got alone. So being about 13, 14 years old, it really became quite an intense thing in my mindset, which started affecting my whole life, started affecting my relationships. I had previously been, straight A student, had been doing very well in school, kind of model citizen and all the rest of it. And then I just started kind of degrading in my own life and my own behavior. And people didn't understand why, and my family didn't understand why, the school didn't understand why. They sent me to the school psychologist. I used to enjoy giving him the runaround. They didn't understand why, and I never told them. I understood why. It was because, to me, I recognized that unless there was an answer to what really is significant about life, what really is the meaning, the purpose, unless there's an answer, then none of it is worth anything. If it is all just a bunch of random chance, if we have just appeared out of nowhere, then there is nothing molecularly or tangibly different between us as living human beings and just a table or a dead rock. It's just a different configuration of chemicals. It's just matter, which is here today and gone tomorrow. And there's no meaning to it, there's no significance to it. Any thought of consciousness or rational thought is just simply an illusion masking the random chance and ultimately the emptiness on which everything is based. That thought just continued to bother me. I remember walking down the street one day, about 14 years old, and watching cars drive past me, and I thought to myself, the only reason people can get on with life is because they don't think like this. Because if you do think like this, and you keep thinking like this, you'll just go crazy, because there is no answer. That's what I thought. There's no way to find an answer. There's 1,000 different religions, 1,000 different opinions, and who's to say which one is real, what's right and what's not? I can't even figure out myself, let alone trying to figure out the world. So how can I even hope to obtain something which resembles an answer? And in the midst of that, I started to pray. And it was a kind of desperate prayer life, really. It was the kind of prayer life where you've been out drinking a lot, partying a lot, trying to fill your life with whatever you can, and then when all of that's gone and everyone else has gone home and you can't sleep and you're sitting there and you're thinking, 70 years on this planet and then I'm dead. And that's assuming I haven't been run over by a bus, got caught by some terrible disease, or had an even worse misfortune like a meteorite fall out the sky on my head or something like that. Just anything and everything is waiting around the corner. I'm not guaranteed a day, I understood that. And in those times, I started to pray. I started to say, God, I don't know if you're real, but I've always believed you were there. So surely this increasing mess that my life looks like is your fault, if that's you. Why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you giving me an answer? Why is there nobody who can explain to me? And I had friends who were Christians. And they shared with me about Jesus, as maybe some of you here this morning have had friends share with you. They shared with me about Jesus being the answer and being the solution and being a way to having peace with God and a way to knowing Him. And, I just kind of, you maybe relate to this phrase, and you maybe have heard it. I've certainly heard it many times from people since. I've said, well, that may be all right for you. I can see that a religion is something good for you. I can see that it works for you. But, it's just not really right for me. I'm sure